Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our first guest has over 20 years of professional experience in leadership, strategic foresight, management, consulting, corporate advisory, taxation, and regulatory advisory. He has a wide range of industry experience and is also a corporate trainer, coaching over 100,000 corporate Nigerians in public institutions and private organizations in Nigeria. Possessing all these qualities as a professional in his field, he has taken interest in contesting for the highest office in the country, as he is the presidential candidate of the Liberation Movement. Joining us to discuss his plans for the country, strategy towards 2019 general election, and other political issues is Kris David. Good morning. Welcome to the morning show.
Morning.
Hi, Kris. Welcome to the morning show.
Morning.
And thank you for giving me a copy of this book.
Yeah.
Smart Government, the Preferred Future, Shaping the Nigerian Dream and the Pathway to Prosperity. Well, I'll take time to read it later, and if I have any further questions, I'll ask you. Smart Government, the Preferred Future. Good. Now, what do you mean by smart government, the preferred future? And you are presidential candidate on the platform of the Liberation Movement Party. Why Liberation Movement? I mean, Nigeria left colonial rule many years ago. What exactly do you have in store for Nigerians?
Well, if there is anything that has been unequivocally accepted by all Nigerians today, is that leadership has failed, or there is leadership failure in Nigeria. And perhaps more precarious situation we find ourselves in Nigeria today is that Nigeria is actually a failed state. So, Liberation Movement is a political party that seeks to liberate Nigerians from one, ignorance, two, bad leadership. And as a presidential candidate, my promissory note to Nigeria is what I call smart government. Smart government is that preferred future that has eluded Nigeria for the past 58 years. Now, the new world order for nations today is to embrace smart government. So smart government is a product of leadership foresight that engages systems thinking to craft innovative solutions and deploy smart technology in addressing the peculiar needs of a nation. And the two objectives we seek to achieve by deploying smart government in Nigeria is one, to shape the Nigerian dream. That nation that offers its citizens a promise. The second is to get all Nigerians right progressively in the pathway to prosperity. Today, I asked you, what promise is this Nigerian entity offering you as a citizen? In Nigeria today, 4 out of every 5 Nigerian women wants to have their babies or child in Canada or in the United States of America. And they will tell you that they want to secure the future of that child. What that means is that the future of the children born in Nigeria today is not secured. And it's self-evident, looking at the spite of killings that we have, the mindless killings. Today in Nigeria, anyone can be killed, and there's no repercussion. If an army general can be killed, then who is the common man on the street? So smart government, one of the first things we are going to be doing is that we need to secure this nation. A nation that guarantees right to life. A nation that will accept that the life of human beings is supreme. So that's the first thing. So in the smart government process, because this process is not a 5-point agenda or 7-point agenda, it's a process that we must genuinely and diligently follow if we want to shape that preferred future for Nigeria. So the first thing we are going to be doing is what we call the article of faith. Nigeria does not have an article of faith. All nations are built upon certain values. So the values about which your nation is built will determine the prosperity or the poverty of that nation.
Well, I mean, when you talk about article of faith, I guess the strongest article of faith you can have is the Constitution, which is the basic law of a country. And Nigeria has a constitution. And when you talk about right to life, it's, for example, in our constitution. When you talk about any other rights, those things are in the Nigerian constitution. Okay? So chapter 2 talks about those values. It's called Objectives and Directive, Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy. If we go to chapter 4 of the Nigerian constitution, it talks about fundamental human rights. So what are you proposing that is different from what we already have?
Well, what's in your article of faith, and how do you
The truth is that article of faith precedes every constitution.
Okay.
It is the shared values that the citizens of a nation have agreed to live together.
Well, the constitution begins by saying, we the people.
But
Okay.
you and I know that we don't have the people's constitution. So that leads me to the second aspect of the smart government, which is rule of law. And the first thing we have there is that we are going to be providing Nigerians the opportunity to have a people's constitution. So by 15th of December 2019, we should have the people's constitution. That constitution will define the shared values and those rights that you have rightly said that should be in the constitution. But because it's not the people that actually sat down and agreed that this is our shared values. And when you look at great and prosperous nations, they have 7 virtues that they espouse. And these are the 7 virtues that we are going to be, and that will be entrenched in the article of faith, and which will also be translated to the constitution, because all laws have their rules and values. So the people's constitution is what we need in Nigeria. Because we don't have that people's constitution, that's why we have weak institutions that have not been able to safeguard those rights. So,
but the people who are asking for a people's constitution in Nigeria, I mean, they've been on these arguments since 1999, since the return to civilian rule. We dealt with the same issue under the Obasanjo government, the Yar'Adua government, the Jonathan government. It's also been a major issue under the Buhari government. What gives you the confidence that if you become president of Nigeria, between May and December, we will have a new constitution, something that Nigerians have been grappling with since 1999, knowing that it's not something that a sitting president can dictate?
Well, if you look at the basis, you discover that it has been on resources, control of resources, rather than what are the values that make a nation great. So that is going to be the difference. And my approach is also going to be the difference. I'm going to adopt a different approach to achieving the people's constitution, that which I won't want to let out now. So the third thing...
Oh, it's a special secret.
Yes, because it's a strategy that you need to adopt. Because when you throw out your strategy out there, there's every possibility that people will start launching on it.
No, I mean, having a true constitution that is truly people-owned, I don't think that there's much of anything to hide in that.
Well, at one point...
I'm saying the process. The process.
Because it has to be a people-based process.
Yes, it has to be a people-based process. But today, people talk about restructuring. That is what they use. And the word restructuring has become repugnant in the Nigerian society.
I don't think so.
Yes, because the word restructuring has actually become a problem on its own rather than a solution.
How is it a problem?
Because what is the unifying definition of restructuring? You
don't need to have a unifying definition.
So
you can have different perspectives
if you don't have a
unifying definition,
so if you don't have a unifying definition, how will you now achieve your objective? And that's why my approach,
you can build consensus.
The liberation movement approach is different. Our own is going to be based on, driven by values. These are the set of values that we agree on, as a nation, the basis of which we live together as citizens of this great nation. And it's going to be based on that. It's not going to be based on revenue sharing and all that. That is why our approach is quite distinct.
Okay, so at what point do you intend to make this article of faith transparent to the Nigerian people?
As soon as I get elected into office, the first 30 days,
So you're giving us now your
the first 30 days, within the first 30 days, I'm going to be organizing what is called a Truth and Reconciliation Summit.
Okay.
Which is going to address all these issues. So when we get to that time, we'll roll out the details.
So how do Nigerian people get involved in actually contributing to this?
That's why I said when we get to that time, we'll roll out the details. But that we must have what is called the Truth and Reconciliation Summit for all Nigerians, where we are going to be discussing these virtues.
Now, how long will it take? What's the process like? How long will it take for everyone to come together and say, yes, okay, these are our values, these are the things that we want?
That's I said within the first 30 days.
But this Truth and Reconciliation Commission you're talking about?
I didn't say commission, I said summit.
Summit.
Yes.
Okay, because you know that we've had a Truth and Reconciliation process in this country before. They had it also in South Africa. It doesn't necessarily solve a country's problems.
It depends.
If anything, it can create even more problems.
No, it depends on who is driving it and the agenda of the proponent. And before now, this summit and commission are driven by vocational politicians.
Well, one major concern for Nigerians, beyond values and rule of law, is the economy, getting the economy to work. When the APC was coming to power, they promised Nigerians that the exchange rate would be $1 to $1.
Right.
They've not been able to do that. Today it's about, $1 to 350 naira. Now, what will you do with the economy? Or is that also a secret strategy?
No, that is what I call economic freedom. And the first question you ask yourself is that what is actually the business of government? Is it the construction of roads, building of bridges, selling of crude oil, or appointments into GEC positions? Because that is what our vocational politicians think that is the business of government. But the business of government is actually policy formulation and implementation. And when you listen to my definition of smart government, I said innovative policies. Because for the past 58 years, government practice and policies have actually become a huge burden. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have congruity between the fiscal and monetary policy. Because today, our fiscal and monetary policies are not speaking the same language. And that's why you see a policy will be issued and it will not deliver the intended objective, because another policy is somewhere conflicting with the policy that has been issued. So the first thing we need to do, and when you check my smart government, I said we are going to have a fiscal and monetary policy summit where we are going to define the vision of every sector and industry based on those 7 virtues that underscore the prosperity of great nations. So when we are crafting new policies, it's going to be based on that vision, based on those core values that has been defined in that fiscal and monetary policy summit. Now, I have said that interest rates, I'm going to reduce interest rate to 7%. When elected.
You can't do it by fiat. I hope you know that.
Yes, we can't do it by fiat, but based on what has happened with the advent of TSA, we actually know the largest provider of funds. So what you should consider is what is the total loanable funds in the industry? And who is providing these loanable funds? And how can we not reduce interest rate? Because the way our interest rate is structured, no business can can survive. We can't build capital. The financial service industry is supposed to be a means, not an end. But the way it is structured in Nigeria, the financial service industry is an end on its own. It's not actually servicing the real sector. So we need to get to that point where we tell ourselves the truth. And we can achieve, it's achievable. If you look at what they tell you, people that brings funds into Nigeria, they borrow those money at maybe 3% or less than 3%. And if I'm proposing 7%, that means they can actually bring those funds in and still make more than 100% on their deposit. Well, so there are so many other things that we need to do in
I want to ask you a direct question, yes. Right? And I'd like a direct answer if you can. We're still on the economy, right? Given our rising debt profile, I mean, one is that Nigeria may not have the ability to service its external loans, given its monoproduct economy status and low revenue base. How would you manage Nigeria's debt if you become president?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that we are borrowing for consumption rather than investment. So that is a huge challenge. But we've been in these situations before, and we came out of it. So why not? I believe we can still come out of it. But the truth is that for every debit, there is a corresponding credit. So this huge debt, we know where those monies are going to. And when I get into power, then we have to reverse those credits to pay the debts. So these two is not something I'm going to reveal in detail.
I hope you are not planning to run a government of secrecy.
No, I'm saying that at this point in time,
it's an open government.
It's a transparent. It's a transparent government I'm going to be running, and that's why I said it's a smart government.
Yeah, but for us to engage you actively, you can't be saying everything is secret. It will be revealed
at the appropriate time
after you have been voted for.
Yes, at the appropriate time.
There's something on this your smart government scorecard, which you call a fair tax system.
Yes.
What is wrong with the current taxation regime in Nigeria?
You see, taxation is not fundraising. Taxation is a catalyst for prosperity. Today, the tax system has become a huge burden on individuals and...
No, but the argument is that, Nigerians are not even paying enough tax.
Yeah.
Because many Nigerians are even outside the tax net. And that was why government came up with an executive order saying that, look, if you voluntarily pay tax, then, you get certain concessions. But if you don't pay, then government has the right to even seize your money in the banks.
Doctor, they don't understand what taxation is all about.
So that's, we're talking about the Executive Order 8.
See, when the tax burden is too high, people will opt out of the formal sector. People will begin to look for ways not to pay taxes. Now, all over the world, people evade tax. So what do? You make the tax process as simple as possible to endear people into the tax net. So one of the things I'm going to be doing, in Nigeria today, we have over 62 approved taxes and levies. In my government, we will not have more than 20 taxes. So that reduces the burden in the first place. Then, the corporate income tax rate is currently at 30%. You need to bring it down to 20%. New companies, new startups companies, within 5 years should pay taxes at the rate of 10%. Then you talk about individuals, the personal income tax. The highest tax rate for the highest income band is 24%. You reduce that to 12%. We are currently arguing over minimum wage. If I reduce your tax burden, haven't I increased your salary? So it's about the appropriate policy mix, tax policy mix that you bring on board. that will galvanize this economy. So it's understanding the right policy, not seeing taxation as just a means or a tool of generating revenue. It's because we are fixated in that collection. That's why we've not been able to expand our capacity. And that's why we have not been also able to diversify this economy. So you need sectorial tax policies that will develop each sector. We are talking, before I came on air, you were talking about electric cars. What is the policy? Is Nigeria actually thinking towards that direction?
No, we'll probably end up riding bicycles by 2050.
Well, in my government, in my government, we will not be riding bicycles because all that is included in the smart government project that I have.
Well, you've been talking about taxation, and I know you have strong background in taxation. What do you think of the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme and the offshore assets initiative?
Well, from the first time that the project was launched, the scheme, I was in one of the stations, and I said this scheme will fail. And today, do you still hear about the VATs? See, there is a principle in taxation, a canon of transaction that talks about efficiency. And efficiency talks about the cost of collection. Today, if you ask them, the proponent and those who were implementing VAT, to give you the cost they incurred in promoting VAT and what they got from that VAT, and compare it with other schemes, like the self-assessment scheme, you will discover that the VAT is a failure. And that's why the details of that VAT have not been revealed. And I don't want to talk about this other one because it's also going to fail. The Nigerian government, because they don't understand these things, they look for shortcuts. And because we are also fixated in what we can get now, there is no strategic approach to how to grow the Nigerian economy. So everybody comes in. Look at all the government agencies. They are more or less revenue-generating agencies. They tell you they have targets. And you cannot have all government agencies pursuing revenue and you want to grow a sustainable economy.
Okay, let me ask you a political question. I mean, liberation movement. So many political parties now, over 90 of them. And we've interviewed quite a number of presidential candidates, and everyone is so optimistic. Liberation Movement Party, I mean, how strong is that party? What are the structures you have? I mean, when I even had Liberation Movement Party, I was wondering. I've had all kinds of parties here. So what gives you the confidence that a party that is small, that is relatively unknown, can, be the vehicle for you realizing your ambition?
Well, you consider us relatively unknown because we've not been making noise.
Well, how old is your party?
You want to win an election, you should make noise.
Yeah. The official campaign period starts this Sunday. So 90 days is enough time to turn around the whole of this country. Meanwhile, let me let you know that we are in all the 36 states.
Okay.
And FCT. While other people were making noise, we were building our structures.
But you will be the first member of the party that I will meet. I've never met anybody who says he's a member of the Liberation Movement Party.
And you have a running mate
a card-carrying member.
Or that he knows about the party.
No, you can't say that. We are all over the place, yes.
Oji, have you heard of Liberation Movement?
I even tell you that even...
I heard it yesterday, actually.
For the first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before coming to this place, my other state chairmen have been on radios and TVs in other states. So we are well known.
Is your party part of the coalition of political parties, CUPP?
We are not part of any coalition. And in the next 90 days,
you are standing alone.
We are going to be the only force to reckon with. Because we have special agenda, realizable agenda for Nigeria.
You think you have enough relative weight to maybe beat the APC, the ruling government, or even the PDP, which is the main opposition party?
Well, you call them the main opposition party, but I'm saying that we are going to be the only force to reckon with.
I like that confidence. But I know also you have a running mate, yes? And where's your running mate?
Yeah, my running mate is not currently in Lagos, but she's a female, and I'm sure very soon we are going to be meeting her.
So you have a female vice president. We're going to have a female vice president,
yes.
Dr. Bati, if
Well,
we vote for
The geopolitics, do you think it favors you? Because it looks like the presidency of Nigeria has more or less unofficially for 2019 been zoned to the north.
See, if we have to grow this nation and be part of nations to be reckoned with, then we must grow beyond sectorial allocation of.
No, I asked because we had the chairman of the APC here yesterday.
Yeah, that is the.
And he was saying that politics is a game of numbers, big numbers.
Yes.
So and I'm asking, do you have the numbers, either in terms of your ethnic extraction, or in terms of geography, or even in terms of religion, which is a major issue in Nigerian politics?
That article of faith that I talked about is going to address those things, because we've been trapped in this cycle of endless failure because of this kind of religious, sectorial, we prefer this thing over equality and meritocracy. And that's why we are different. We are bringing, nations are built on set of values, not religion, not ethnic extractions or tribal affiliation. So that's why we are different. And we are not just in politics because that is the next thing to do. It's because we've seen that there is a need to liberate Nigerians and Nigerians from the siege we found ourselves.
Have you been able to raise money for the campaign? Because, elections cost money.
Yeah, elections cost money, and one of the ways we are raising funds to fund our campaigns is through the sale of this book, which is Smart Government. This is what we have for Nigeria. So you support our campaign by buying the book. And you have
This one is a complimentary copy,
yes.
I guess.
What about like the GoFundMe? I know Showere has a GoFundMe account too. Why don't you guys do that as well?
Well, we may consider that option if our financial expert or team deems it fit. But right now, we have other ways we are raising money.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this segment.
Yes,
you're welcome.
Good
and
pleasure.
I wish you luck.
And all the best, huh?
Yes.
So that when you win, you invite us to attend your inauguration as president of Nigeria.
And I'll be
on
so
the platform
excited
of the
to have
liberation
you.
movement.
Yes, I'll be happy to have a vice president as a female. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all from Kris David, Presidential Candidate Liberation Movement. We'll take a short break now.